things I love about paleontology is seeing not only the amazing variety of convergences, like nimravid carnivores developing saber teeth, like those of true cats, but also the macroevolutionary trends that play out over and over again that may not really have any cause behind them other than simple diffusion. One of the most famous examples of a big macroevolutionary trend is the repeated evolution of large body size, a phenomenon known as Cope's rule. Edward Drinker Cope was a dinosaur paleontologist at the start of the dinosaur craze in the 1800s, and he is known well for his role as one of the antagonists in the Bone Wars, the competition to collect the biggest and best dinosaurs in the American West. Dinosaurs were big, of course, and Cope came up with the idea that evolution had pushed the dinosaurs to become even bigger. This phyletic increase in body size within a lineage became known as Cope's rule because the pattern turns out to be particularly widespread. In 1972, Steve Stanley published a seminal paper on Cope's rule, noting that while it is true that animal body size tends to increase in many radiations, the pattern is not a unidirectional trend in which all animals march towards larger body size. Instead, as a radiation unfolds, some animals stay small, others increase in size a bit, and some increase in size and then decrease again. A few others reach the big body sizes that define the upper size bound for that clade. As Steve Gould later put it, the variance in body size increases as the radiation continues, and the large size classes gradually get filled in by bigger and bigger animals. But there are always little ones. His explanation was that there are always opportunities for little animals as well as big ones, so most animal clades cover a wide range of body sizes. We have Great Danes as well as Pekingese. Animals explore all these opportunities and so evolve a large range of body sizes. In the end, evolution is pushing the envelope, seeing if being any bigger than any before will still work. Could humans breed a dog bigger than a Great Dane? Probably, considering that we have big predators like lions that fill niches that could be available to dogs as well as cats. Animals get bigger in time partly because there are opportunities there that are unavailable to smaller members of their group. One of my first research papers also addressed Cope's rule. My contribution was to note that the problem was not just why the biggest animals get bigger, but why they start from small body sizes in the first place. Cope's original rule was impressive because the first dinosaurs were the size of dogs, and yet they managed to eventually produce 70-ton, 130-foot-long sauropods. My explanation was that small things are likely to survive better through mass extinctions and so found the next radiation. This is due to the advantages of being small when times are bad. For instance, little things usually have large populations, generalized ecology, rapid rates of reproduction, and maturation, all traits that make them particularly hard to kill off. A mass extinction might pick off a lot of mice, but they are so abundant, so productive, and so capable of getting by with little that they are likely to survive while elephants do not. So, while the founders of a given radiation are small, their only evolutionary choices are either to stay small or to get bigger. And over time they will explore a range of body sizes that works for them. Another aspect of body size evolution is that most clades have intrinsic limits on how big or how small individual species with that particular body plan can be, and these limits are set by their physiology and the way they're built. As an example of a physiological constraint, we can consider the size range that can be occupied by birds. It's hard to be a 1 centimeter long bird, for instance, because its heat loss would be much faster than it could take in energy. Problems with heat loss therefore set the small end of possible body sizes of birds. This minimum size has been called the left wall, meaning that it's an impenetrable barrier to how small a bird can be, that's set by the way a bird is constructed and its ecology. In contrast, flying insects have no problem being much smaller than birds. Their left wall is well into sizes that birds could never reach. If there is a left wall, then there's also a right wall. In terms of body size, the right wall is the maximum size animals can be. For flying birds, the right wall may be set by the problem of being able to get off the ground, and birds seem to have hit their limit at wingspans of about 12 feet. But note that if birds give up on flight, they can be much bigger, like a moa or an ostrich. Of course, birds are effectively dinosaurs, so future birds might be able to replicate the 7-ton, 30 to 40-foot range of Mesozoic theropods. Modern birds are probably nowhere near their theoretical right wall, at least if you're a ground bird. A key point is that many radiations are founded near the left wall of minimal body size. From there, simple diffusion, a stochastic process, will dictate that species will eventually evolve bigger body sizes while others remain small or of medium size. The consequence is a gradual expansion in the range of body sizes through time that requires no special adaptive explanation. While there may be advantages to being big, there are also advantages to being small, so evolution works in both directions. But there is that hard physiological limit on how small a species can be, and that prevents an evolutionary drive to be small that is the equivalent of the drive to be big. We can easily simulate this randomness by flipping coins. In this experiment, you stand next to, but facing away from a wall, say behind you, that represents, say, your minimum possible body size, namely your left wall. You then flip your coin. If you get a heads, you take a step forward, away from the wall. A tails, you step back. If you're already against the wall and you get tails, well, sorry, you have to pass up your turn. You cannot step back owing to the presence of the wall. In our analogy, evolution cannot make your body any smaller owing to the left wall limitation in physiology. If you have patience and keep flipping your coin, eventually you will move away from the wall into the realm of larger body size than you had at the start. Of course, if the coin flips are really random, you may also have to move back towards the wall later on towards smaller body size. In the diagram, you might be following the green line, for example, one of the myriad of random walks that you could get with this coin flipping exercise. Alternatively, you might follow the red line and get a run of heads and quickly move away from the wall towards much larger body size than you had at the start. The one thing you cannot do is follow the blue line, since that one crosses the left wall, making you smaller than your physiological or ecological limit. If you do this experiment with a bunch of friends, in the end some people will represent animals whose body size has grown considerably, while others remain small-bodied throughout just due to sheer random luck. The point of this experiment is that evolution works like this, or it can work like this. There's no need to hypothesize strong selective drives towards achieving large body sizes. This is another of those processes like mixing or the Signor-Lipps effect that produce patterns that look really deterministic, like there must be some strong driver behind them. However, the underlying process is actually stochastic. Indeed, Cope and others of his day cooked up all kinds of explanations for why it's good to be big. Their explanations were not necessarily wrong. There can be good reasons to be big, like avoiding predation, for instance. But the overall pattern is described well as a process of diffusion that need have no strong driver towards getting big behind it. An analogy is that evolution is a bit like opening a bottle of perfume at one end of a large room and then seeing how long it takes for the perfume to diffuse by air mixing and collisions between molecules to the other end of the room. Eventually the perfume is everywhere. Evolution does this as well, as long as the ecology and constraints can be met that allow them to fully explore their world. So now a little summary. First, random exploration of the environment can produce what looks like very deterministic patterns, such as the tendency towards larger body size. Likewise, small animals repeatedly diffuse into a range of different body sizes among their descendants, resulting in a steady increase in the upper body size bound through time. But selection also matters, and evolution is not random. We see aspects of this predictability of evolution caused by strong selection in the convergence in fish and sharks and marine reptiles and also marine mammals, if you want to make it into the ocean. But there are constraints on how you do it, and this can result in strong selection. But determinism is not exact, since there are almost always multiple ways to design something that works, and evolution will end up trying a lot of them given enough time and starting materials. The vertical tails of sharks and marine reptiles both seem to work fine, as do the horizontal flukes of whales and sirenians. Likewise, saber-toothed animals repeatedly hit on the same solution to bring down large prey, relatively safely, at least for them. Still, even with a predation strategy so refined by selection, it looks like there was at least two ways to be a saber-toothed predator. Some have robust sabers like Smilodon, while others like Homotherium have thin knife-like sabers. So there is a little variety. Hence, even in cases where selection must be intense and predictability looks really high, there are still multiple ways to tweak the system.